Okay, so we're going to get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to all who are joining us. My name is Bridget Cooley, and I am the coordinator of community planning at the Pollard Library. I do ask that you remain in mute during the presentation, but we will track questions in the chat if you have any questions that we can bring up at the end of the session. Jessica's also co-host, so if she sees any that she can address right away, she'll do that as well. I was really happy to offer this opportunity to hear from Jessica Lander and her students about this project. I became aware of it because I got a tweet at the library about the books, and so we were really excited to get the books out. So we do have them available if you are interested in reading them. Obviously purchase them at your nearest local bookseller as well. Lala has them. But we're very excited to have this as part of this Lowell City of Learning Festival. I like to hear the stories of diversity and uniqueness that exist in our community. So it's really fantastic to see it and kind of hear from our young people about their experiences. The We Are America project is a national project that was founded here in Lowell by Jessica Lander and her former students to spark conversations about the many dimensions of American identity in classrooms across the country. I hope that you are looking forward to hearing about their unique experiences and perspectives on what it means to be an American. So please join me in welcoming them tonight. Also, if you want to hear more from Jessica, she's actually having a second program tomorrow night at Lala Books at 5 o'clock to talk about her new book, specifically from her perspective it's called Making Americans. So I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody tonight. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Bridget, for inviting us to come on to speak. We are honored and excited. And I remember when we first saw the books in the library, and it's just really powerful for us and for students in my class over the years to see their work in the library accessible to our community. So we're really, really appreciative of this collaboration and this partnership, and we're excited to be here tonight. I get the incredible joy and honor to be sharing the virtual stage with three of my former students, now colleagues. So Joy Lynn is here, and then we'll have Lily and Nicole joining us soon. They're coming out of tests and school events because all of them are still in school. But I will in a moment just let Joy Lynn briefly introduce herself, to just say who she is, where she is right now. And then she and Lily and Nicole will be helping lead this conversation. And our hope really is to have it be not just a presentation, but a conversation. And so, as Bridget said, I am a teacher at Lowell High School. I've taught starting in 2015 at Lowell High. I teach mostly recent immigrant and refugee students, history and civics. And then I also teach a class that I co-created with a then student called the Seminar on American Diversity. And that was the birthplace of the We Are America books and the We Are America National Project. But before I dive into that and share about that, I would love to pass the stage and the mic over to Joy Lynn for a moment for her to introduce herself.
Hi, guys. My name is Joy Lynn Dongo, and I was Miss Lander's student last year, class of 2022. Currently, I am a student in Boston University, and yeah, I'm excited.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joylyn. And we will have Lily and Nicole introduce themselves as soon as they are able to join us. But I wanted to start us off by heading over to our slides. Oh, wait, there's Nicole. I'm going to just put Nicole on the spot as soon as she gets in. She just got out of a test. We'll start in a second talking about the We Are America project. But Nicole, if you are fully on, we are introducing ourselves. Joylyn just introduced herself, and I would love for you to just briefly introduce yourself and what you are doing now in life. And you're on mute.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Yes, as Miss Liner just said, I did get out of a test seconds ago. But hi everyone, my name is Nicole Harrison. I am the student co-founder of the We Are America project. It feels like years ago since I've been in Miss Lander's class. Well, I'm sorry. What is the
You're
rest of
just saying who you are and where you are right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm currently in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale to be exact. I'm a senior, and yes, it is currently midterms week.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to share my screen to talk with you all, and mostly Joylyn and Nicole and Lily when she joins us, to talk about some of the work we do, and then we want to create a space for conversation. So I am going to share my screen and put us into presentation mode. Let's go slideshow. Excellent. So the project, as I was saying, started a number of years ago. Nicole was a senior at the time, back in 2018. And it started with the idea of trying to grapple with American history. We were studying movements and change makers and policies, that big history, but also recognizing, of course, that big history is made up of all the individual stories. And so if we were really to understand the history of the country, then we really need to also understand our own personal history and weave that in and be able to learn from each other. And we were also grappling with the idea that either we felt like we belonged, but others maybe didn't think we belonged, or that we weren't sure if we belonged in the country, and wanting to change that narrative and create space for every young person to claim their American identity, their American story. And so who better to redefine what it meant to be American than the young people today? So we set out to write these books back in 2018, and in the spring 2019, We Are America 2, which Nicole was a part of. And from that launched a national project, which we will talk about in a moment, but it began here with these two books back in 2018 and 2019 on that school year. So you've met Nicole and Joylyn, and then Lily is going to join us soon. But here is who is on our panel today. And a picture of that first class who thought about these ideas, these questions, published this book, but we'll get more into how the national project happened. But I want to start first with the project in the classroom. And Joylyn was just in the classroom last year with me. And so I wanted to start with her talking a little bit about what this class is like. She was clearly a number of years after this picture, but in this class, thinking about these questions. And so I was hoping to get from Joylyn to just share a little bit about what this class was. Could you help, Joylyn, bring our audience into the classroom? What were we talking about? What were we doing? What was the feel of the class like?
Specifically, my class was small in numbers, so we were a very intimate group of students. So that enabled us to make genuine and good connections with each other. It also made us to like open up with each other in a much more subtle way without being scared. I don't quite remember in order on the activities that we did, but I do remember us, as you see in the picture below, we would be in a circle where we would discuss intimate topics like racial inequality, race, skin tone, skin color, sexuality. And here it was mostly student-led. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Joylyn. So this was a class that, Joylyn, you and your classmates created this. So this is a picture actually from her class. And it was a place where we were discussing hard history. So we were looking at laws and Supreme Court cases, change makers, movements the last 100 years. And all of this was helping to bring together this group of students and knit them together, as Joylyn was saying, that sense of trust and community where they were willing to share, to grow, to stretch. And from this, they then started to set out to tell their stories. And they began with small projects like, Joylyn, I might ask you to describe a little bit, but we did a project called the Your Story, Our Story project, choosing objects. And we did a project with Reimagining Migration, where individual students went off in pairs to share parts of their migration story. Indeed, the picture in the corner is with Nicole and another student sharing parts of their migration story with each other, or their family's migration story. And all of this then led to telling a larger story. But Joylyn, might you be willing to share maybe a little bit about some of those mini projects we did?
Yeah, one of the projects that I remember was the object project, where we would pick, was it one object? Okay, it was one object from either our household, where it could be in the kitchen, or it could be a passed down object in our families, and we would take a picture and like write a whole thing about it, and then later on share with our friends / classmates. Specifically, mine was a wooden spoon, and it's not like the regular spoon that you would use to eat. It was more like the stirring ones. And that was very special to me because it relates to my background, which is Kenyan. So we would use that when we are making ugali. And to me, it might have been like a regular object that I would use, but to other people, they were very surprised as to how the tool looks and what I use. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And Joylyn, what did it feel like sharing those stories first just with our class? Because we weren't yet totally sharing these publicly. What did that feel like to share these stories?
Personally, I was excited because I got a chance to explain where I come from through showing my object. And I don't think anyone else there was Kenyan, so I was excited for them to learn something about what it means to be Kenyan. And as much as it can be scary to talk in front of a large group, because again, we were an intimate group, I was excited. And I loved receiving their reactions when they were hearing what I was talking about.
Beautiful. Now, from this, Joylyn and her classmates went on to tell stories of self. And so each of them, after sharing all of these different stories with each other, privately chose one story that they were going to share publicly as part of our book. And this point, when Nicole was writing her story, it wasn't yet a national project. By the point that Joylyn was participating in this, it was a national project. So they knew the scope of what was going to happen with these stories. They were going to be shared nationally for teachers and young people to learn from all over the country. But they set out to choose one story to share that story in our book. And we spent half a semester working on these stories. And Joylyn, I was hoping to ask you to share a little bit about both what you chose to write about. Was it a story that was easy for you to write about? Did it come naturally? Or did you struggle to think about what you wanted to share? And what did it feel like sharing your story publicly, not just with our class, but with the wider world?
Okay. Well, before I go deep into what I wrote, I do want to say the activities that we did before we wrote our story really set a wonderful foundation for us to write our stories. Because if we wrote our stories beforehand, then we would just not have a deep revelation on what it means to be American. So after the activities and mini projects, we were able to really grasp the idea of what it means to be American individually and also collectively, and also what the national project is as a whole. And writing the story was extremely intimidating because usually in an interview, when the interviewer asks, tell me about yourself, you're like, where do I start? So again, it was intimidating, but with the help of Miss Lander, we all started thinking of just one story that has impacted us as individuals. And specifically for me, it was my voice, not the tone of my voice or the how loud my voice is, but mostly what it means to use my voice. And I forgot my title, but it was something, it was My Unseen Battle. And basically, my whole point of my story was I ended up finding out that I've had many battles throughout my life that has landed me to really know that my voice matters and I should use it to empower my friends, my family, and whoever else needs help.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joylyn. And I remember just all of the conversations we had throughout this project of all of you were talking about, like, where do I start? And thinking about weaving together so many different parts of your story and the amount of edits and work you did on that. Nicole, would you be willing to just share briefly, because I know you're going to talk a lot about our national work, but just briefly about what it was like choosing a story and what it was like sharing that story.
Of course. Honestly, same with Joy and probably so many more students that have partaken in this project was the where do I begin question, because in my class, I had a lot of students, I shouldn't say a lot, I should say a majority of the students in my class were immigrants or their parents were, first-year immigrants. And I was someone that was so had no idea of the types of hardships or what that lifestyle is like. My mother provided such a, how do I say, she made education a priority, let's just say, and she wanted the best for me, and I was the only child, and I'm sure you all know how that story goes. But anyways, how do I choose a story that, even compares or has the same feeling of, emotion, strength, than that's what my classmates went through. And so with the help of Ms. Lander, of course, she really helped guide me and of course my other students one-on-one on reflect on some really nice reflective questions. Some of which are, who is someone that is like the most important in your life? What is the happiest time in your life? Can you explain that? Can you flesh it out? And of course, being an only child growing up in a single household, I had to say my mom, and I had to dedicate a story based solely about her and her struggles. And so that is what I did. And my story definitely didn't just go in that one direction. It went to the left, right, above. It did not go how it went at first, but after a round of edits and things like that, many hundreds rounds of edits, my story finally became what I was slowly envisioning, and honestly just the perfect explanation I could possibly give about my story and how it relates to fellow young Americans.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nicole. And we are now joined by Lily, our third panelist. So Lily, I know you've just come back from but I would love for you to introduce yourself briefly, say who you are, where you are in school right now, so what grade, and then briefly, we've been talking about what it was like to choose and share your story for the book. And so I was hoping you could share a little bit about your process in thinking about what story you chose and the writing process of choosing something to share publicly with the world.
Okay. My name is Lily. I'm a senior at Lowell High School now, but last year when I was part of the project, I was a junior. And I joined the class just because I wanted to learn about social justice and stuff like that. But then I found out that I had to write a book and share the story publicly myself, which was scary at first, but it was also a really good opportunity to be able to speak whatever I want and share it with a bunch of people. So mine was kind of about my experience dealing with sexual harassment in school, in middle school and high school, and even how it starts in late elementary school. It was hard to share at first, especially with the people I'm closest to and with my parents. But Miss Lander and sharing it with the class and stuff helped me to be more comfortable sharing. Because in her class, we would kind of share a lot about ourselves with each other, and it gets you used to that kind of thing. And then writing it, it was a lot of editing and stuff, but it was all worth it. And I was happy with my story at the end of it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lily. And thank you for jumping in, coming off of a class, a school event. So this is just a little bit you're hearing from the people who are the heart of this project, the authors of these books. And what we did here sparked something nationally. And so I was going to turn to Nicole, who is a colleague of mine now, which is just what an honor for me as a teacher to now be working with my former students, now going on 4 years, going on 4 years now. I know it's wild, but Nicole, I was hoping if you could help me talk about the origins of this project, how we went from a classroom project that typically ends at the end of the semester when you all graduate or leave, but didn't end. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes, of course. I cannot believe it's been 4 years, and I can't even believe that I'm about to graduate now. But yes, so the making of the We Are America project was definitely unexpected for me. You know, I finished my book, published it, shared it with my classmate friends, done, I felt great. And then it wasn't until just one day after class where just a bunch of us got together, kind of in this photo, and kind of just sat down in a circle, and we just couldn't stop writing. We couldn't say no to not wanting to show this to other students, to other teachers. We believe that this just had to continue. There was nothing like it at the time, and we just needed for it to continue. Straightforward. So what we did was we sat in a group, circle, and just fleshed out, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to take this to the next level, make it national? And of course, Miss Lander had her, her own colleagues, her adult colleagues, her friend connections, and really just help share what we do, and a bunch of other individuals in our group. Kat, for example, she single-handedly created our website, and she is currently at MIT, actually. So while being a freshman at MIT, she helped create this website, and really, I can't even imagine some of the work she did, but definitely please check it out. It just recently got revamped. So there's it's easier to look at the story. So you have it broken down into categories, schools, locations, themes. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, so why I thought it was important personally was again, there was nothing like this out in the public. And I also felt that I took this class. I'm going to be honest. I took this class because I needed to fill it into my schedule. I like to be transparent when I say this so people can really get the full picture of how Miss Lander just changed my mind about so many topics, so many themes and things like that. So I am just so glad for her, so grateful for her. That's it.
Thank you, Nicole. And the gratitude goes in both directions, really, because it really is just like it's so powerful for me to be working with Nicole and with her classmates, to be learning with them, building this with them over so many years. And it is wild to think, Nicole, that you are now a senior in college. And so to build on what Nicole said, this is our team. There we go. We partnered with 4 incredible national organizations, or 3 national organizations and local organizations. So amazing organizations. If you don't know their work, please check them out. Reimagining Migration, looking at migration history, the Tenement Museum, of course, in New York City, Facing History and Ourselves, which was also founded in the Boston area, and then our neighbor, the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, which has been our partner from the beginning as well. And from this, we took our curriculum, we made it so that others could follow it. We set out an application. We had teachers from across the country apply. And we created a website. We'll get back to that website soon because we want to have you have an opportunity to interact with that website tonight. And our teachers, we've been working with for the last 3 years. We have a cohort of teachers each year. We work with about 20 to 30 teachers across the country. And we help mentor them in publishing their own We Are America stories. And so we now have a growing collection on the website. We have more than 500 stories from around the country of young people telling their stories of American identity so that we can all learn from them. And so just a few of the books that have come from Florida to North Dakota to New York City to California to Idaho. And we're working with another group of really inspiring teachers this year. Nicole, could you tell us just a little bit about what you do working with teachers? Because of course you are a student, but I think one of the powerful things about the model that we co-created is that we're flipping the teacher-student sort of approach on its head, and now students are teaching teachers. And so what do you do as your role as a student mentor?
Yep, so as a student mentor, I have a few teachers, or each team has a few teachers that they one-on-one work with. So if they have any questions or any guidances, comments, any concerns about either certain students or a group of students as a whole, they can easily email me and I can hopefully answer their questions or guide them in any lessons that they need extra help on. We also, which I don't even think happens, but we can also Zoom into their classrooms, and I can through Zoom meet someone or a student in their classroom in the comfort of their own classroom. So it can be in Massachusetts. I've even I have Zoomed through my students in Hawaii. So I can make it work, the time zone difference, but essentially, long story short, I help guide students and teachers directly through the project, as it can be a little overwhelming at times.
And our teachers have done just really powerful things in their communities, getting recognition on local TV, on websites, in newspapers. And that's a really exciting thing too for us to be seeing how this work is growing, and getting to learn from both these teachers. As Nicole was saying, zooming into classes. So here's Philly, our one of my former students and colleagues, zooming into a class, and then Nicole zooming into a class in Hawaii. And so creating this opportunity for both teachers to be learning from young people who've done this, as they set out to do this with their young people. And then also, like here, creating opportunities for students to learn directly from students, to be able to hear from their near peers. And so we thought it'd be fitting to pause here and let you all learn from our students here. So I am going to exit out of this and stop sharing my screen in a moment. But what we're going to have you do is we're going to have you go to our website, and I'll share this link in the chat. And on our website, as Nicole said, is you can search stories by, so if I go here on our website, by topics, by states, and by schools. And so what I have done is I have selected the ones for Lowell High School. And so you're going to see Joylyn and Nicole and Lily's stories, along with, there's 109 stories from our classroom now up. And what we would love for you to do is to take a moment to choose a story and listen. You can either listen or read. So if we go to a story, here's Joylyn's story. You can either listen to Joylyn, maybe make sure your audio is turned off, so that we're not all listening at the same time, or you can read her story here. We're going to give you about 5 quiet minutes to listen to a story, and then encourage you to come over here to a Padlet. We wanted to have an opportunity to interact. And so I'm going to share this link too in the Zoom chat. And we would love for you to share your thoughts about what are the connections you see, having listened to this story, between the story you listened to and your work or your story. How did the story you listened to extend your thinking? Or maybe you see things differently now, having heard this story. And maybe what questions do you have? We'll come back here in about 5 minutes to read what you're sharing here on the Padlet. And then we want to make sure that there's about 10-15 minutes for you to ask questions of my colleagues, my amazing former students. So I'm going to share this link also in the chat. You have both the link to our We Are America site. Go listen to a story from our school, from our classroom, and then head over to the Padlet and add your thoughts here. I'm going to go silent for 5 minutes to make sure I'm letting you listen. And then probably we'll start talking at about 7:13. I'm seeing some really powerful thoughts and reflections on how these stories stretch our thinking, or maybe make us think differently, or give us new ideas. And in a moment, as we just wait for maybe 1 or 2 more comments on the Padlet, would love to open it up for questions from all of you. Either you can direct those questions, you can unmute or raise your hand to ask that question, or you can type into the chat. But we would love to hear from all of you, and we so appreciate you coming on to learn about our project and our work, both in the classroom right here in Lowell and across the country with our teachers working across the country.
I do want to appreciate you telling your stories. I did not read anybody's stories who are on here. I read other stories, but I do kind of appreciate the process of kind of laying yourselves out there and kind of being extremely vulnerable at a time where you're already very vulnerable as teenagers. And, you know, telling your truth. There's a lot of adults who aren't willing to kind of tell their stories or tell their own truths. And so doing it at such a young age is something to be extremely proud of, and being willing to publish it in a book and put it out there for the world to ingest is, I think, even more brave. So kudos to all of you all.
So I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Jessica. It's wonderful to see you as always. And I actually, in the Padlet, I wrote something very similar to what Bridget just said, because the that balance of vulnerability and openness at the same time is, and bravery is really key. Is just amazing how powerful these stories are. And so my question for students is, as you yourselves wrote these stories, as you were in the class, as you are, some of you now working with folks nationally, what kinds of resistance do you see to telling the stories, and how do you help people get over the, those concerns, so that these stories can be shared with everybody?
Beautiful. So Linda, I'll add to that for Joylyn and Lily, thinking about it, since you are not yet working with teachers, maybe thinking about that question as a self-question of how do you get over that resistance to yourself thinking about either should you tell a particular story that you want to tell? How did you think about that process for yourself? And then maybe Nicole, either for you or for the work you do with teachers and students now, how do you address that great question that Belinda asked? Any of you can jump in, whoever wants.
Okay, I wanted the young ones to go first, but that's okay. Honestly, when I read your question, I just stopped, the world just stopped, because the way that the question was worded, how can you be so self-confident and vulnerable in sharing your stories? And I almost just don't have an answer, but I need to have an answer, so I'm going to provide an answer. I really don't know where it came from within it, almost as if the moment that I thought of my topic and what I wanted to write about, it kind of just came through. And I feel that the power of what I wanted to say gave me the confidence to just go ahead and write about it, because it was so meaningful to me. And I'm sure it's the same for my fellow classmates as well. Joy or Lily, anyone hop in?
I agree with her, and I had a few ideas for what I was gonna write my story about, but none of them really meant as much to me as the story that I chose. And I chose the one that I did because I felt like it needs to be talked about more, especially by young people, and it needs to be heard by young people, because it's more of a young people's experience, but a lot of adults don't hear young people talking about it. So that's the one that I chose because I wanted to promote it more, I guess.
Lily, if you allow me to ask a follow-up question, because I know the backstory, because I saw you go through writing this. You went back and forth on choosing what story to tell, and knowing that this story took a lot of bravery to tell. And so what was that process like in choosing actively and intentionally to do this story in the end? Because I remember how many discussions we had.
It was a hard choice because I knew it was kind of a heavy topic, but I felt like I had to go with this story just because the other ones didn't have as much like emotion about them. And I decided to just take the step and do this story because I knew that that's the one I really wanted to talk about. And I felt like I would be like wasting a good opportunity using it on something I didn't really care about. And I just wanted to use it to like do something that I think would help other people, even though it was like scary for me.
Yeah.
To piggyback from Lily, personally for me, I thought about the impact. Like if one person were to come across my story, what do I want them to leave my story feeling or being inspired to do? And so I thought about the end goal rather than what story meant the most for me. It was mostly like the end goal. The story was just the icing on the cake. And it really was.
It's beautiful. Linda, thank you for your question. I think we probably have time for a couple more questions if others on the call tonight have questions for our authors here.
Maybe I'll ask another in the meantime because related, because I just can't stop. So you folks, the three of you students are again so brave, and I would not have been brave to share myself. But were there other of your classmates who were less brave that you helped through the process to feel comfortable in sharing their stories? And then were there particular, just things that you did that helped them recognize how important this is?
I think we were all hesitant to share our stories. Were others more hesitant? Of course. I believe I was amongst one of the people who are more hesitant, but it wasn't as obvious as we all made it seem, or didn't make it seem. But I mean, Miss Lander would know who was more hesitant. But I don't know. Lily, do you have any?
I agree. Like a bunch of us were hesitant, including me, like especially me and Joy, I think. But we would go through different things in class to kind of help us warm up to it. Like first, we would just share ideas with like a few classmates, and then we would like share it with our parents, and eventually we were all like reading each other's stories once they were published. And like through the process we were sharing it with our friends and like other family members and stuff. So it's just like taking little steps and sharing with more people during the process so that when you finally publish it, you're ready for like anyone who wants to read it.
But I guess the end goal was our inspiration to publishing our stories, because we knew the purpose of the project as a whole. And so we were like, let us low-key sacrifice ourselves for the better of the whole community, or just letting other people know how we see ourselves as Americans. Yeah.
Beautifully said. No, I think that for me as a teacher, of seeing each of you support each other, and each student, as they told their story and worked on their story, had a different journey. But I think what was powerful, particularly thinking about Lily and Joy's class last year, of just the support they gave each other in telling that story. And it was this really powerful community. One of the days that I find most powerful is a day where we actually barely talk at all. And it's one of the last days in class, and we sit in a circle and we pass out the stories. And everyone has learned a little bits about each other's stories as the writing process has gone on, but no one else has read your story yet. and I print out copies, and we just sit there silently and read. And when you're done reading one story, you raise your hand and I come over and I give you a different one. And it's about 45 minutes of silence. But it's a powerful silence because you're sharing these stories that you've been working on so long with people that you've built really strong connections with. And it's a beautiful thing to watch from the outside of that circle as they're all participating in that. We have time for probably one more question. Yes, Susie.
Hi, thank you all so much for being here. This is amazing. I have been listening. I'm sorry, I've had camera off. I just wanted to know, I think it was touched on earlier, what has this sharing done with regard to the relationship you have with your immediate or even non-immediate family members, whether family members that live in your household. A lot of the stories, the one that I read had to do with a very close family member. How has it helped those relationships evolve? Has it been problematic because there's too much revealing? Do your family members, immediate or otherwise, know that these stories exist? Maybe they don't in some circumstances. So I just thought maybe if someone wanted to address the impact or non-impact this very public sharing has done on relationships in your family.
So we are required to share them with our families before we post them, or with our guardians. So that was probably the part that I procrastinated on the most, because I was like scared to share it with my parents. Like, I shared it with a few of my friends, but I just did not want to share it with them because it just felt so weird. But in the end, I'm glad I did, because it helped them like understand me more and understand like my struggles and why I've done certain things or acted certain ways. So it definitely is scary at first sometimes, but it's also really beneficial in getting a better understanding.
I agree with Lily. For me, especially, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad, but that's okay. Mine was based on my single mother, and I think during my time, it was more of a gift to her. I told her about it, but I didn't have her read it until she had the book in her hands. And there's definitely concerns because you are revealing such a vulnerable moment in your life, and for privacy reasons, sometimes your family members might not immediately jump up and down for you because it involves them or involves memories in their past that they may not want to remember or bring up and things like that. But what you have to always remind your family members is that it's not just all about the bad, and of course it's not just all about the good. This is more about a reflecting moment for me, how it impacted me, my point of view, how I see it, and how it helps me be the citizen that I am today.
And I think building on Nicole, maybe Joylyn, you want to jump in too. We, as Lily said, we always ask that students share the stories with their families, and also that we're centering those stories with our own experiences. And so if there are families or others involved, they're not usually named, particularly if those stories are a more complicated story. To be honoring and respecting that we're telling our story and they get to tell their story. And so having that balance of creating space for young people to share their experiences while also making sure that we're not sharing other people's stories. But doing that, I remember Lily was talking about how hard it was to share with her parents, and then also that conversation she had the night that she shared, and being able to be in communication with her parents as well. So we were talking, she was talking, and how powerful that was to be able to tell that story that she had kept in for so long. Joy, I think I jumped in on you. Did you want to say something too?
I was gonna say personally for me, I was extremely scared because I knew this wasn't just a summary on what I went through, but it gave an insight as to what I was feeling at the current moment and how I'm feeling now. And so I don't know. It definitely gave the people who read the story, who I was very close to, again, an insight on who I am now and how that event has affected me as an individual. But I don't know, they were very much softened by the story and more, I don't know, empathetic. And some of them even told me, wow, I didn't know that really affected you to that degree. And I was like, yeah. And then I avoided the whole conversation the rest of the day, but I guess it was something for them to further know more about me and how they can handle me in the future. Yeah.
I think we are closing out our discussion. So I know Bridget might have a final word, but before we close out, I wanted to share two things. One, if you would like to have these physical copies of these books, they're really powerful. I put links to the spring edition that came out last spring, and then the fall edition that has both Joy and Lily's stories in it. So you can get those physical copies. They're also in our school store, but they're right online, and I gave you the links there. We hope you'll sign up for our newsletter, which is written by our team and shares work that we are doing. And then I just wanted to sort of end with a final, very, very quick question for each of my former students and now colleagues of what do you hope that people will take away from listening to your story and the story of your classmates and peers? It can be a short answer.
Okay, I can go first. Wow. With my story, as I said in the beginning, just how powerful each of our voices are and how we should take our voices seriously, because there have been many events where our voices are limited and shushed. So yeah, but I just want everyone to really know that the American experience is very versatile. It's vast, and it's not just for example, I'm an immigrant, my family is an immigrant except my little sister. I just want everyone to know that, like, it's not just being an immigrant and then it's this big dream and then you accomplish. It's not even that. It's very complicated, and not everyone experiences the American dream, and that's okay. Eventually, maybe, but just how strong our stories are, and especially youths, and for all of us to just keep on going. Yeah.
Nicole or Lily, do you want to share that final thought?
I think someone has a question.
We have one quick question. I know we are over time, but yes, quick question.
Not really a question. Hi, my name's Rayvana. I'm a yeah, she is a student of Milancer too, and right now she at Salem State. I just want to add from Joy about the immigration. Even though the student are immigration, but it's compared to a parent of immigration, it much harder. The way they hard work is 2K. The first case we have to learn from their own kids because they were born from outside different viewpoint from the parent, and the other hard is hard for yourself. You have to adapt a lifestyle. You have to learn from your kid. You have learned from your environment, so that you have to save yourself in order to get fit with the community and your own kid. So it put more effort as a parent. So that's all that I just want to add.
Thank you for adding that. And we're so honored to be able to work with Erica
Yeah.
on our team. Lily and Nicole, do you want to close us out with some of your thoughts?
For my story, I just kind of wanted people to feel like they weren't alone. And I know that a lot of people that read my story related to it and like told me that they had similar experiences as me. So I think just sharing it out makes other people more comfortable sharing their experiences, or even if they don't want to share it, they just know that like they're not alone in it.
Yeah, to go off of Lily, it's the same thing. It was to promote a message for me, that being or having a single parent is something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's like probably the greatest thing ever to meet someone who has a single parent, because they possess both qualities of the dad and the mom. So sorry, someone's vacuuming. But basically, I just I hope my story, the people who read it, especially people who can relate, can also share their story or message me and tell me that it was impactful for them, and that'll just mean the world to me and to my other colleagues who've shared similar experiences.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much. Bridget, thank you so much for inviting us here tonight. I want to thank my 3 former students for joining us in the midst of exams and classes and sports meets. We're really honored to be able to talk about our work. We hope you'll check out our books and check out our national work. We're going to be putting out another book in the spring, but we have so many powerful stories on our website and our books, and just we really appreciate you taking this hour with us tonight.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
best of luck finishing your high school career and your college careers. Have very adventurous paths, I think, that you're starting on. So it's great to see where you kind of came from, and we look forward to seeing where you go.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.